At some point, every evening, they disappear. You were outside an hour ago and your yard was alive. Cardinals on the fence, chickadees working the feeder, a mourning dove on the wire doing that slow head bob it always does before settling in. And then you look out the window after dinner and the yard is empty. Not a single bird, not a sound. Just your yard in the dark, looking like nothing was ever there. Most people assume the birds simply left, flew somewhere else, maybe a tree in the next neighborhood, maybe a field, maybe wherever birds go when the lights turn off. You were wrong. What happens to your birds at night is not a departure. It is the most dangerous, the most biologically extreme, and the most intimate part of their entire day. And it is happening right now in your yard. Welcome back to Why Birds Do That. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe because what you're about to learn will change the way you look at your yard after dark forever. Today we are going into what birds do at night. There are 7 things I want you to understand. Stay until the end because the last one is the one that most people tell me they think about every single night after they hear it. And keep watching through number 4 because that is where everything shifts. Number 1. Your backyard birds did not leave. They are still here. Right now, within a few dozen feet of where you are sitting, the birds that visited your feeder today are settling into the exact same spots they have used every night for weeks, sometimes months. This is one of the most overlooked backyard bird secrets in nature. Where do birds go at night? They don't go, they stay. Researchers at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology have documented that most songbirds roost in dense vegetation, in the thickest part of evergreen trees, inside shrubs, tucked against the trunk of a tree where the branches are tightest. Some species wedge themselves into crevices in bark. Others press flat against a branch with their feathers fluffed so wide they become nearly invisible. The spot is never random. It is chosen based on wind protection, predator cover, and thermal insulation. And most birds return to the same roosting site night after night. Think about that. The cardinal you saw this morning at the feeder slept last night within 50 feet of your bedroom window. Not in some distant forest, not in a field, in your yard, in the exact same spot it slept the night before. You have walked past it 100 times in the dark without knowing it was there. But what comes next is something most people find impossible to believe. Because what your birds do after they settle in for the night is not sleep. Not the way you understand it. Number 2. On the coldest nights of the year, the chickadees in your yard do something that sounds like science fiction. They die. Not fully, not permanently, but close enough. It is called chickadee torpor, and it is one of the most extreme survival strategies in the entire animal kingdom. Research from the University of Alaska Fairbanks documented that black-capped chickadees can deliberately lower their body temperature by up to 22 degrees Fahrenheit on a single winter night. Their heart rate drops, their breathing slows to nearly undetectable levels. Their metabolism falls to a fraction of its waking state. They enter a condition that, if you found one and held it in your hand, you would assume was dead. This is not hibernation. This is not unconsciousness. This is a calculated biological shutdown that the bird's body initiates every evening when the temperature drops below a certain threshold and reverses every morning when the sun returns. The bird's psychology behind this is staggering. The chickadee does not panic. It does not resist. It surrenders its own body heat, knowing, in whatever way a bird knows anything, that the alternative is worse. Staying warm all night would burn more calories than the bird can store, so it chooses the edge. Every night, and every morning, it comes back. This is how birds sleep when the world is trying to kill them. And this is the backyard bird behavior happening 10 feet from your bedroom that you have never once seen. Have you ever wondered why the chickadees at your feeder seem so frantic in the first hour of daylight? Now you know. They are not just hungry, they are restarting. Stay with me here because this next one changes how you understand every sleeping bird you have ever seen. Number 3. Birds do not sleep the way you do. When a bird closes its eyes at night, there is a very real chance that only half of its brain has shut down. The other half is still awake, still watching. This is called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, and it has been documented across dozens of species. Research from the Max Planck Institute for Ornithology found that birds sleeping in exposed or vulnerable positions are significantly more likely to keep one eye open, the eye connected to the hemisphere of the brain that remains alert. The birds positioned at the edge of a roosting group, the ones most exposed to predators, sleep with the outward-facing eye open almost continuously. The birds in the center, shielded by others, close both eyes. Think about what that means for the backyard wildlife in your yard. The bird sitting on the outermost branch of your maple tree tonight is not fully asleep. One eye is scanning the dark. One half of its brain is running threat detection, while the other half rests. It is standing guard over its own body, while simultaneously trying to recover from the day. The birds at night in your yard are not resting the way you imagine. They are surviving. Go outside tonight after dark. Stand under the tree closest to your feeder. Look up. You probably won't see anything, but they are there. You can do it tonight. It costs you nothing. Number 4, and here is where it becomes personal. Not every bird gets the safe spot. When a group of birds roosts together, and many species do, there is a hierarchy. The dominant birds take the positions in the center, surrounded on all sides by other bodies, shielded from wind, invisible to predators. The subordinate birds get the edges. Research from the University of Oxford on European starlings showed that roosting position within a group directly correlates to survival rates on cold nights. The birds on the outside lose more body heat, are more exposed to owls and hawks that hunt after dark, and have to maintain higher alertness, which means less deep sleep. This is not random. It is negotiated. It is communicated. The bird communication that happens at dusk, those calls you hear as the light fades, are not just settling in sounds. They are negotiations. Who goes where? Who earned the center tonight? Who gets pushed to the edge? Your yard has a social order after dark that is invisible to you and absolutely life or death for them. Have you ever heard a burst of sharp calls from your trees right at dusk? A brief argument that lasts 30 seconds and then goes silent? That was the negotiation. You just witnessed it without knowing what it was. But what comes next happens between 2 and 4 in the morning, and it is the reason some of your birds are not there in the morning. Number 5. Between 2 and 4 in the morning, your yard becomes a hunting ground. The great horned owl, the barred owl, the screech owl. These are the predators that have evolved to operate in total darkness, and they know exactly where your birds roost. Research from the Raptor Research Foundation has documented that nocturnal raptors develop detailed mental maps of prey roosting locations in their territory. An owl does not search randomly. It flies a route. It checks specific trees, specific branches, specific spots where it has found sleeping birds before. What happens to your birds at night is this. They are being hunted by a predator that already knows where they are. The only defense a sleeping songbird has is stillness, concealment, and that one open eye. The burst of alarm calls you sometimes hear at 3 in the morning, a single sharp note that cuts through the silence, and then nothing. That is not a dream. That is not wind. That is a bird that detected an owl and sent one desperate bird sound into the dark, hoping it was enough. Sometimes it is. Sometimes the yard has one fewer bird in the morning, and you never know why. You just notice the feeder feels a little different. Research estimates that nocturnal predators take between 15 and 25% of roosting songbirds in some suburban areas over the course of a single winter. Let me make that number real. If you have 20 birds using your yard, 4 or 5 of them may not survive to spring. Not because of cold, not because of hunger, because of what happens in your yard at 3 in the morning while you sleep. And here is the part that most people find hardest to hear. Stay with it. Number 6. You know the sound your yard makes in the morning. The robin's song before sunrise, the cardinal's whistle from the fence, the chickadee's 2-note call that starts the day. But have you ever paid attention to what your yard sounds like at 1 in the morning? The silence is not empty. It is a verdict. Researchers studying nocturnal bird communication have found that the absence of sound in a roosting area at night is itself a signal. It means the alarm system is intact. It means no predator has been detected. It means every bird in the area has assessed the environment and concluded it is safe enough to remain still. When that silence breaks, when a single alarm call pierces the dark, every bird within earshot processes it instantly. The silence in your yard at night is not nothing. It is 100 birds holding their breath at the same time. It is trust, stretched thin across the dark. I saved this one for last because it is the one that changes everything. Number 7. Everything I have told you tonight leads to one conclusion that most people never consider. The birds in your yard chose to be vulnerable there. Not your neighbor's yard, not the park, not the woods behind the subdivision. Yours. A woman in North Carolina wrote to me last year. She said she had been putting out feeders for 8 years. She knew the birds came every morning. What she didn't know, what she never thought about, was that they had been sleeping there too. Every night. In the holly tree beside her kitchen window. She found out one evening when she went outside to check on something and heard a sound she had never noticed before. A soft, rhythmic breathing from inside the branches. Dozens of birds, right there. She told me she stood in the dark for 10 minutes, just listening. She said the yard felt different after, quieter in a way that had nothing to do with sound. Think about what happens to your birds at night. They lower their body temperature. They shut down half their brain. They place themselves in the most vulnerable state a living creature can be in. And they do it in your yard. Against every other yard in your neighborhood, they came to yours. They assessed every tree, every branch, every line of sight. And they decided that your yard was safe enough to die in, just a little, every single night. That is not a small thing. The backyard birds that visit your feeder in the morning are not just stopping by. They are residents. They live there in a way that most people never think about because we only see the daytime version. But the real relationship, the one that matters most, is the one that happens in the dark, when they trust you enough to close their eyes. The next time you step outside after dark, stand still for a moment. Listen. You won't hear them, but they are there. They have been there every night, and now you know what that means. Tell me in the comments, have you ever heard a sound outside your window at night that you couldn't explain? A single call in the dark? A rustling in a tree that shouldn't have been moving? Tell me what time of night. Tell me what season. I want the specific story. I read every one. These are the stories I carry the longest. I'll see you in the next one.